now. 4:30. Oh. Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Fletcher, are you ready?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you start working with the Montreal Canadiens as a scout under Sam Pollock? How did that come about, sir?
I was coaching. I didn't start working in Montreal as a scout. As a matter of fact, my first year, 1956, I was general manager of the Verdun Blues in the Quebec Metropolitan Hockey League. But I was coaching minor hockey, and I had a couple players on the team that they were interested in, and they came and talked to me, and they offered me this job. A very low-paying job. They offered me this opportunity to join an organization as historic and as successful as they were at the time, and so obviously I jumped at it. I was only 21 years of age.
Who were the players with Verdun? I mean, were there anyone super notable that that became famous? Anyone in particular?
Not really. The one whose name you would that's very familiar in hockey his name is Jack Bowman, and he was Scotty Bowman's brother.
Oh, wow.
And he was the captain of our team.
What was it like working for the late Sam Pollock?
Well, it was very educational. He was not the general manager when I started there.
Okay.
You have to understand, he ran their whole farm system.
Okay.
Which was very extensive. They had junior teams from coast to coast, plus an American League team, and so it was an experience that, without a doubt, was responsible for me having the longevity in the business that I have been able to sustain, and that is, he was one of the first real hockey people who understood the business of hockey, maybe more so than anyone else in that time.
Okay.
And just learning from him and being around him and was an education in itself. And you have to understand, I spent 10 years in Montreal, which I refer to as my apprenticeship.
Yeah.
And all 10 years I did, performed different functions, and all of it led me to get an opportunity to start moving forward when the league expanded initially from 6 to 12 teams.
How did you get, now you went on from Montreal and you started working in St. Louis. How did that come about? Why the transfer from Montreal to St. Louis? What happened?
Well, what happened was the opportunity to really advance, and it was an opportunity to go to an NHL team as an assistant general manager.
Oh, wow.
Not the first year. The first year scouting, and after that as assistant GM.
What was it like working as assistant GM under Scotty Bowman?
Well, first of all, Scotty Bowman was not the first general manager.
Yeah, it was Lynn Patrick, right?
That's correct. Lynn Patrick was the one who hired me in May of 1966.
Okay.
And, we only started playing in the fall of 67.
Okay.
And then shortly thereafter, Bowman came on board, Scotty, and then during the first year, when the team got off to a very poor start, Lynn stepped aside as coach, and Scotty took over as coach of the team. And then at the end of the year, Scotty became general manager and coach, and then I became assistant general manager.
During those years in St. Louis, it wasn't just you. You had Jim Devellano in the front office staff. You had Scotty Bowman. Later, Al Arbor got into coaching. I mean, literally, you had like a coaching and managerial dream team with St. Louis. What was it like in those days with all those brain trust unequaled? You know, in those early years in St. Louis.
Remember, we were all very young then. I mean, Jimmy Devellano was a part-time scout, and Scotty and I were just starting off our career being involved with an NHL team, as opposed to running, being involved in junior operations. So, and Al was a player.
Yeah.
And I guess we all started to grow together, and that first year in St. Louis, we ended up only making the playoffs the last weekend of the year by the time we climbed back up there, and then ended up winning the expansion division, which we did 3 years in a row.
Okay. How did you get the job with the Atlanta Flames? How did that come about?
Well, when I was performing functions with the Blues, part of it being involved with our farm team, and I came into contact on numerous occasions with a gentleman by the name of Bill Putnam, who one time was president of the Philadelphia Flyers, and he, because they had their farm team in Quebec in the American League, and so I did, over the years I was in St. Louis, run into contact with him on numerous occasions, and then he left Philadelphia, and then he was the one who was hired as the first president of the team in Atlanta.
Wow.
And it was a little bit of a rush expansion. You have to remember, well, you won't remember, but the expansion teams were only granted franchises in December before they started up the following fall. And the reason the league granted them granted franchises to Atlanta and the New York Islanders was there were two new buildings in the process of being constructed. And the next year, 1972, the year that the Flames and the Islanders started up, that was the year that the WHA came into existence.
Yeah.
And quite candidly, I'm sure the reason they moved so expeditiously was the fact that they wanted to keep the WHA out of those two markets.
Is it true that before you got the Atlanta job, that the Islanders kind of dangled an offer to you, but is that true or no?
No.
Okay. So what was it like? I mean, it's not often a general manager gets to build a team from scratch. What was it like building the Flames from absolute scratch? What are your memories of that?
Well, there was a lot of excitement. First of all, to become an NHL manager, which I always dreamt of wanting to be. And it was very challenging because, first of all, in those days, they weren't overly generous in providing quality talent to the expansion teams.
Yeah.
And secondly, the year that both the Islanders and ourselves started up, we were competing with the WHA for the players.
Wow.
It was. It definitely was a shock. I mean, my entire roster, expansion draft roster, total number of career goals in the National Hockey League totaled less than 70.
Ouch, ouch, ouch.
Actually, we did pretty well that first year. We were very fortunate. We made a pre-draft deal with Montreal to get a very good goaltender in Phil Muir.
Yep.
And then we drafted a goaltender by the name of Dan Bouchard from the Boston organization, who was their top goaler on their American League team. So we had two very, very good young goaltenders, and we were in a playoff position our first year in the league until about 5 weeks to go in the season when we faded the way you would expect us to.
Yep.
And then we followed up on that by the second year of making the playoffs.
How tough was it to sell hockey in the Deep South? I mean, this was significant. I mean, this was the NHL's first real inroads. I mean, in the deep South. I mean, St. Louis is kind of like more of a border state. I mean, but Atlanta, you're really going into the heart of the Deep South. How tough was it?
Well, it was obviously a real challenge, and one that only lasted 8 years for a number of reasons. One of which, we had a beautiful building that opened up that was completed in time for our first league game, but it was really a dinosaur before it opened in that it only had 15,000 seats.
Ooh.
No room for expansion, and no private boxes.
Ooh.
Plus, it was just then that the next wave of buildings that went up had all these additional amenities that generated, tremendous revenue streams for the respective teams.
Okay. I'm sorry.
Atlanta didn't have that, and we also were never able to really do well for our television rights. As a matter of fact, I think a couple of years we would get more money for our radio rights than television, so you can imagine how little that was.
Ow.
But as far as the fans go, we did pretty well. I mean, 1 year we got up to, after we made the playoffs second year, I think we got up close to 12 to 13,000 season tickets, which was terrific. But the Southerners, and you have to understand, Atlanta, there were an awful lot of transplants there from the Northeast, and so there were more hockey fans in the area that had become hockey fans in more traditional markets prior to transferring there on business. But the Southern hockey fan was a real rabid hockey fan. They loved the game. But the cost of operating a team when the Flames started up and the owners went to the league and they were given the pro formas on what it would cost to run a team, a 5-year projection. Well, that went out the window almost not overnight, because when the WHA came in, salaries instantly doubled and quadrupled, and
wow,
even more than that. I mean, so it couldn't sustain the operation in Atlanta, and that's why they were sold in 1980 and moved to Calgary.
What were you, when you came to drafting players? Was there a certain type of player you were always after? I mean, what was in terms of styles of hockey? What were you into? Like, some general managers are more offensive minded, some are defensive minded. Did you have like a tactical philosophy when it came to selecting players and/or coaches? For the Flames and then later with the Maple Leafs. Did that ever play a factor in your judgment when it came to selecting talent? Playing and coaching talent.
Well, as far as playing goes, philosophically, we believed in skilled players, but we believed in size too. And when you're on expansion teams, the talent level of your base is not that high. You probably like our talent team was based with hard-working character players and who came to play every night. But if you were looking for talent in those days, you had to pick it up in the draft, and we were very fortunate. I think we had 3 rookies of the year in the first 5 or 6 years. And, Eric Vale, Tom Lysiak, and Willie Plett, I think. I'm not positive.
I can look that up. Yeah. And
so our talent base was developed through drafting.
In the 1980s, all of a sudden, you started drafting a lot of American college players. What led to that? I mean, were you ahead of the curve?
We didn't draft them. We signed them as free agents.
Oh, really?
Most of them. And, I mean, it was a market that we were fortunate that not only a few NHL teams, gave it the priority that it probably should have had back then. It's not like today. And so, I mean, when we arrived in Talent, we looked up the road 180 miles and saw this juggernaut, developing, and said, "Holy cow! How do we compete with these guys?" And so we hired people who had worked in American collegiate hockey circles, and we went out and signed free agents, and we signed 6 of them, or 7, 6 from the U.S. and 1 from Canada, that became very, reasonably good NHL players. 3 of whom we were able to trade to the St. Louis Blues to get Joey Mullen, a Hall of Famer and one of the best right wingers in the game.
Yep.
And 3 others who ended up playing for us on our teams in the late 80s, and when we won the Cup in '89. And that was Joel Otto, who had played at Bemidji, Jamie McCown, who played at Ohio State, and Colin Patterson, who played at Clarkson College. So,
yep.
I mean, that was one hell of a bonus. We had 3 college players in our lineup playing regularly on a cup-winning team, plus a Hall of Fame 50-goal scoring right winger that we obtained for 3 other college players we drafted.
Did the late Bob Johnson have a lot of influence in terms of you going out and getting those college free agents? Because he came from Wisconsin. Did you get a lot of input and recommendations from him, or is that from your?
For sure, Badger helped. And he was with us 5 years and did a great job coaching. And in my mind, of all the coaches I've ever been associated with around the NHL, Bob Johnson was the best practice coach I've ever seen. He was committed and thoroughly believed he could make NHL hockey players better players. And he sure did with us. I mean, he developed players to a much higher level than I thought would ever be possible. And he's the one who laid the foundation for a real top competitive team in the league. The last 5 years we were in Calgary. We had the most points over the 5 years, over the 5 seasons, the most points of any team in the league.
Yeah.
So, and he left. He left on his own accord. He retired. He was from, and his wife, they were from Colorado Springs, and he went back there to become president of USA Hockey.
How did you find him in the first place? Because, I mean, he was only the second NCAA coach ever to enter the NHL ranks. How did that come about, Mr. Fletcher?
Well, we used to go watch a lot of hockey, and at the collegiate level, and we watched Wisconsin practice because we were looking at a player we subsequently drafted, but wasn't playing hardly at all because he was only a freshman that year. And so in watching their practices and following his success at the collegiate level and his reputation of being a tremendous teacher and improving skill level of players, it was very intriguing, and we said, let's go for it. I mean, it was bringing an American college coach into Western Canada was a little risky at the time for the people like ourselves running the NHL team, but it was sure worth it. He did one hell of a job.
You hired Terry Crisp took his place. How was there any difference in styles between Terry Crisp and Bob Johnson?
Oh, very different, very different.
In what way?
Crisp was Bob Johnson was a teacher. Terry Crisp was a former NHL player, had a lengthy career, not as a top-end player, but as one of the guys that help you win championships in the third and fourth line, and then he very successfully coached junior hockey in Canada with Sault Ste. Marie, and so we hired him in Calgary to coach our farm team in the American Hockey League, which at that time I believe was in Moncton. It was in Moncton.
Yeah.
And so he was coaching our farm team, and he was the young coach in waiting because it was logical if, Badger stepped down or we decided to have to make a change that he would transition into the job. And Badger, on his own accord, left us, and so it was a very easy decision. It was an automatic decision to promote Terry to coach the team.
Twice you acquired Doug Gilmour, first from the St. Louis Blues to Calgary, and then later when you shifted from Calgary to Toronto, you brought him to Toronto. What was it about Doug Gilmour? Because he was one of the big catalytic players that helped your teams win. What are your memories about those two trades where you got him twice?
Well, I remember in the 87-88 season, we won the President's Trophy for having the best record overall in the league, and won by quite a margin. And we had a disappointing playoff, and so when St. Louis called and they were deciding they were Ronnie Caron, who worked at Montreal and who I'd known before he even worked with Montreal, we were able to make a deal to bring Doug to Calgary, and then we won the Cup that year, and he led the way. He did. Al McGinnis won the Conn Smythe as the most valuable player in the Stanley Cup playoffs, but Gilmour was our key guy. And we had a lot of other pretty damn good hockey players, Hall of Famers too, like Joe Neuendecker.
Yep.
And Lanny McDonald and Joey Mullen, and 5 players on that team are now in the Hall of Fame.
They were a magnificent team. I mean, it was like a super team. Were you surprised, though, that St. Louis offered up Gilmour, though, considering his skills and what he brought to the ice? Were you surprised at that?
Well, they had some issues with him in St. Louis, and St. Louis was run on a lesser budget than most teams in the league. They really, really were fiscally stringent, and they got a hockey player at over 100 points a year before, and Mike Bullard from us, and we also took on a couple players that they were obligated to under contract that they didn't want to pay anymore. So that's how we got Gilmour.
What are your most favorite memories of that '89 Stanley Cup win? It was the only time you ever managed a Stanley Cup winner. What's your most favorite memory of that moment?
Well, I mean, you have to understand, I started my career in the Montreal Canadiens with the Montreal Canadiens, and to win the Stanley Cup in the Montreal Forum.
Wow.
The only team in the history of the NHL that's has done so, other than the Montreal Canadiens, it was a very special moment for me.
When it came to negotiating contracts, I know some general managers have to, like you were talking about Ron Caron, they had, with the Blues, they had to run on a lesser budget. Some, like the Detroit, had a very, healthy, they were very liberal in terms of putting out money before the salary cap was introduced. When it came to dealing with the salaries and all that with Calgary and then later with Toronto, how tight a budget were you under in those years? I mean, did you have a lot of leeway, or no, you had to kind of keep it to a tight budget? How do you remember it?
Well, I always had a lot of leeway, for sure. But to put into perspective, the salary budget for our 1989 team that won the Cup, the team, not the budget, the team salaries ended up that year it's just a fraction over $6 million for the whole team.
Okay.
So nowadays you get a third line center for $6 million a year. But so there and in Toronto, the same thing. They were. They wanted to get better, and they were prepared to allow me to do what I had to get in players that could make the team better. They talk about the 10-player trade when I was in Toronto that we made with my old team, the Flames, but financially we took on a tremendous amount of salary in that trade. Yeah. And there were salaries at that time that Calgary wanted to, would like to get off the books, and we were happy to take on. And those are the type of trades that give a chance for teams who are struggling to improve quickly. Whereas today, the role of the general manager is much, much, much more difficult.
Yeah.
And because you're operating on the cap system, and like right now, these guys, any trade they make, you almost have to trade dollar for dollar.
Yep.
And at least during my era, for myself and my counterparts as managers of other teams, I mean, nobody running a professional sports franchise in any league gets by without making mistakes. I mean, we all make mistakes. And but today, the NHL manager of today with the cap, if you make a mistake on a player that you're allocating a substantial number of dollars to, and that player doesn't work out, I mean, you are in one hell of a box because you can't replace him because you haven't got the cap room.
Yeah.
And in my day, if you made a mistake, and like I said, everybody did, you had the ability to go out and recover from that mistake a lot easier by maybe getting someone that cost you some money to bring in.
Okay.
But today, these guys have a far more challenging job than we did in the era when I was a manager.
I mean, look at your son Chuck with Minnesota. I mean, it's a lot tougher for him than it was for you. When you started out, correct?
Way tougher, but the game is much more sophisticated. I mean, there's no comparison. I mean, my last year as a general manager, I guess, was '97, and even though I'm still working, but the game is much more sophisticated. When I started off as a manager, I mean, I had one assistant, David Poyle.
Yep. And
we had one head coach, no assistant coaches, no trainer. I mean, no nutritionists, no skating coaches, no assistant coaches.
Yep.
One equipment man and maybe one part-time guy at home, and and basically that was it. And Philadelphia was the first team in hockey that hired an assistant coach, to my knowledge, and that was in the early to mid '70s when they put together back-to-back cups, when they hired a person by the name of Mike Nicolak, Fred Sherrill. Ray's dad hired, and that was the first assistant coach hired.
Yep.
Nowadays, when you watch NHL teams practice, you have no room around the ice to practice because you got a half a dozen coaches out there.
Wow.
But anyhow, we're getting off topic a little, but no, and you have so many more tools. I mean, yeah, it's hard to believe, but when I operated, there's no such thing as computers or cell phones.
Wow.
And never mind analytics, which is becoming such a big part of sport.
Yep. The new revolution in sports statistics, and all that.
So, I mean, today the staffs or the hockey department staffs are tenfold of what they were when, for most of the years, at least the first 15 years as a general manager.
Not counting yourself, during your magnificent career, name some other general managers who you respected and admired, who you thought were very good at their trade. I mean, any come to mind who you really respected for the way they ran their teams?
Oh yeah, when I came into the league, I obviously tremendously admired Sam Pollock and Tommy Ivan in Chicago and Emil Francis with the New York Rangers, Punch Imlach. I mean, I admired them, and they gave the younger guys a lot of support and help. Not when it came to making player trades or they'd cut your heart out to make a deal for them to better themselves, like you would too.
Yep.
But in all areas that were common to running a professional hockey team that every team had challenges with, they were there to help.
Yep.
And so they were great. And then, of course, during my era, Harry Sinden and obviously Bill Torrey and Bobby Clark and Bob Pulford. I mean, they were the ones more in my age bracket. Lou Nanny, even though he was short term, he didn't stay the long term. But those were guys that we worked hand in hand with respect to growing the NHL together.
Okay.
But they were top managers when during my career, especially the earlier part of the career. But coming in to the general manager's job, Tommy Ivan, Sam Pollock, Emil Francis, they were very, very helpful.
What was it that made Sam Pollock the great general manager he was? I mean, what was that one quality above all others that made him the great the general manager that he was? What was it?
Well, number one, he was an absolutely tireless worker.
Okay.
Number two, I mean, he's the one who first incorporated the business aspect of it into the general manager's position. I mean, I think there was a lot of resentment by a lot of the other managers way back then. You have to remember, I was pretty young then, so a lot of it, I'm not winging it, but a lot of it is, is stated. But he seemed to have more influence with the board of governors than any other managers, and he attended teams, and he attended the governors' meetings, and he was one of the principals that put together the plan of first expansion for the NHL.
Okay.
So he was operating on a different level than most of the other managers of that time.
Okay. Is there anyone else that?
Well, what didn't hurt too is you have to remember, as a 21-year-old joined the Montreal organization, the first 5 years I was there, they won the Stanley Cup every year.
Yep.
I mean, when the 6th year came and we lost the first round of the playoffs, I think, what's wrong? I mean, we're not. This isn't supposed to happen.
What are your memories of the late Frank Selke Sr.? What are your memories of him?
Well, my amount of contact with him was extremely minimal. I mean,
Okay.
You have to understand, I was a 21-year-old part-time guy working under their top field man, but I mean, he was. I mean, he seemed to be. He was the elder statesman then. He seemed to be at such a level above me that you almost bowed in respect when you ran across him.
Wow.
But, no, I didn't have a lot of. I only had casual contact.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Even though I'm old, I'm not that old.
Okay, sorry, Mr. Fletcher. Sorry.
No, I'm kidding.
Okay. What are your memories of the 94-95 lockout? Were you heavily involved in, negotiating with the players' union? Were you, or no? What are your memories of that?
Well, I was involved in a meeting with a league official that we had with the union that may or may not have been the start of getting things back on track. But, I mean, I wouldn't want to suggest any role I had was any more than that. But, I was the president and general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs at that time, and Toronto was very adamant that they wanted hockey back on the ice.
Yep.
But, and so I did attend a couple of meetings, but, I mean, I certainly wasn't a big-time player.
Who was instrumental in helping break the logjam, in your opinion, sir? I don't mean to be controversial. I'm just being curious. I mean, who was helpful?
Yeah, I think it can't go any further than Gary Bettman, who was under his leadership, and the people he had in place doing the major negotiating that ended up finally getting the teams back on the ice playing. You have to remember that lockout, the work stoppage, only started after training camp. Wow. We went through the full training camp and exhibition schedule.
Ouch. Wow.
And then there was a stoppage, and fortunately we didn't lose the whole year.
Looking back at all your trades or free agent signings, is there any trades that you really regret the most? Because you talked about earlier about, back then if you made a mistake, you could overcome it. Well, today, you make a mistake, the salary cap, it's a real crunch, all that. But when looking back on your career, is there any trades that you really regret making or anything like that? Anything comes to mind?
One for sure, and it was right at the end of my career when I traded Steen to St. Louis.
Ooh.
For Lee Stepniak, and he at that time he was, he wasn't really a top six forward with the Leafs, but after he went to St. Louis, he developed into one hell of a hockey player and a real good NHLer, and that's by far the worst deal I ever made.
Would you call the second time you got Doug Gilmour from Calgary to Toronto your greatest trade ever? I mean, the one you really savor the most in terms of long-term benefit, or no?
Well, it was different. I mean, it was the most. That trade made the most immediate. Well, made maybe the most impact in the hockey market, in that. The first 2.5 years Gilmour was with the Leafs, he was arguably the best player in the NHL.
Wow.
And he carried the Leafs, and I mean, the Leafs had not been very good for a number of years.
Yeah.
And he just brought the interest in hockey back to the level it is today, which is as the best hockey market in the world. But I think it's hard to say, but if I called the most important trade I ever made, I think it was bringing Lanny McDonald to Calgary.
Ooh, okay. What? Yeah.
He was a Western Canadian boy. He was from rural Alberta, and to bring him home to Calgary at a time when he was at the top of his career, and I mean, he gave our team, when competing with the Oilers up the road, and Gretzky and Messi and Anderson and Coffey and Fuhrer, they were all starting to develop into the stars they became. Bringing Lanny to Calgary gave us instant credibility. And it didn't hurt that the first full year he was with us, he scored 66 goals.
Was it difficult getting McDonald, or was it tough trying to acquire him? How do you remember that trade?
Well, I'm not totally sure why Colorado wanted to trade him at that time, but we had a hockey player on our team that Bobby McMillan, who had a 100-point year, and his brother was general manager of Colorado, and we traded him and another very good player to Colorado to get Lanny back, and it just worked out so very well for us.
What was the toughest challenge when you took over as general manager of the Toronto Maple Leafs? What was the toughest aspect of trying to revive the Toronto Maple Leafs? Because when you took over, they were in horrible shape. What was the toughest challenge, when you took over?
Well, putting together an organization that could help develop a successful hockey team and bringing in good people, like brought in Darryl Sittler and improved the scouting staff and hired after my first year. The first year I just I wanted to come and look and watch and see where we go from there. And the second year we brought in Pat Burns to coach.
Yep.
And to me, the way you run a successful hockey organization is you hire the best people you can, you give them the opportunity to do their jobs, you try to encourage them and motivate them, but you let them do their jobs, and everybody works hand in hand and as a team off the ice, develop a winning team on the ice.
Looking back, what was it you came so close in 92, 93, and reaching the Stanley Cup Finals, and then after that, looking back, what went wrong? What stopped the Leafs from making it to the finals, in your personal analysis?
Well, we lost. What stopped us from making it to the finals that first year?
Well, or overall, you came so close. Of course, that penalty call, and that allowed Gretzky to score and all that. But look at years after that. Was what kept the Leafs, from going further, in your opinion, looking back at it?
Simply put, we didn't have the foundation, the depth in the organization as far as young players coming up. The first year I took over the job, 91, 92, they didn't have a first or second round draft pick.
Oh, yeah.
We didn't have the young talent to come in and push and replace the players, the veteran players on our team that were starting to enter the twilight of their careers.
Okay.
So that was the biggest challenge.
Okay. Mr. Fletcher,
when you ask about trades, I made a third trade that had the most long-term impact. And that's when I got Matt Sundin for the Leafs.
Okay.
Because don't forget, he was our leading scorer for over a decade. Each year for over a decade.
How did you come about acquiring him? How did that happen?
Well, Quebec had lost a series in the playoffs to the Montreal Canadiens the previous spring. And they felt that Montreal was just beat them physically.
Mm-hmm.
So they were very interested in getting Wendell Clark, who was a real good player. He had a number of injuries, but he's a real good player. But he played very hard, very physical.
Mm-hmm.
And in Sundin, we were getting someone who's 23 years old,
mm-hmm.
who would be a leading 100-point getter in his first 3 years, big, strong, and durable.
Yep.
So I think that doesn't receive the recognition in a lot of cases as McDonald and Gilmore did because of their initial impact that started to change things immediately. But, crazy. Matt's is a great hockey player.
Yep.
And he's by far the Leafs player for over 10 years.
Okay.
So anyhow, that's enough of that. What else do you need?
One last question. This is it, the absolute last question. What is that one quality that if someone wanted to be someone is reading my book and they want to become a general manager in the NHL, what is that one quality that you have to possess to be a great general manager like yourself, Mr. Fletcher? What is that one quality above all others?
In a lot of respects, like back in the early days when I was a manager, you became a manager because you were developing a reputation as a top-notch evaluator of player talent.
Okay.
Today, that isn't necessarily so. We're starting to get people who are strong in other aspects of the game, the business side, the CBA, the cap system, and they bring in hockey specialists to work with them.
Mm-hmm.
But I think the most important thing, you're running a hockey team, and like I ran the business of it besides being general manager, like the years I was in Toronto as president, and
mm-hmm.
the last 10 years I was in Calgary as president.
Yeah.
And the whole key is you have to learn, you have to be a good listener, number one.
Mm-hmm.
You have to can't be afraid to hire quality people
mm-hmm.
and let them do their job and work with them and support them. But let them do their jobs. Let everyone do their jobs. It's a team effort. In building a winning organization, it's a team effort.
Okay. Mr. Fletcher, I want to thank you so very much for your kindness. Thank you, and may God bless and keep you always, sir.
Oh, well, thank you, and good luck with your project.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Bye-bye. Yep. That was the Cliff Fletcher interview. Date was Monday, August 22nd, 2016. The time was 4:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.